us to be balling into truffles or some of our critters. Here we are 24 hours later, where our ganache has firmed up. It has sat overnight. So we're most famously known for our hand shaping and handmade critters. So here we have a crew of artisans. Now the trick is to seal in this ganache with a wonderful chocolate shell. In this case, we dip the cats in a vat of white chocolate, one by one, and just lay them down on a tray for them to set completely. And some of our truffles are dipped by hand, such as most of the critters. And some of these round truffles are perfectly adapted for enrobing, which gives us a perfect coating of chocolate every time. This small army of crabs are ready for a dark chocolate shower. This is where we lay each piece on a conveyor, and they go through 2 curtains of molten chocolate, and the crabs end up being completely covered and sealed in a dark chocolate shell. It's decorated by hand, eyes, details, and this really gives character to each one of these single truffles.
After we cook the batch in our fire mixer, we spread it on the candy maker's cooling table. The batch has to be spread fairly quickly before it firms up, and then those pieces will be run through our chocolate waterfall or enrober. Next, we're getting ready to make blueberry creams. We use an old-fashioned technique called starch molding in the tradition of the master candy maker. Each individual cream is hand-funneled into starch and allowed to set up overnight. Once the pieces set up overnight, we can take them out of the starch and feed them onto the belt of our enrober or chocolate waterfall. We use invert sugar so that after a few days these become creamy again. Once the pieces go through the chocolate waterfall and exit the other side, each one needs to be decorated or marked. Then it looks. Over the years, we've made millions of chocolates and no two are exactly the same. After the chocolates go through the enrober, they're covered with shredded coconut. That's the decoration on this piece. 12 minutes through the cooling tunnel and each piece is ready for a careful inspection before packaging. Here we're making milk chocolate nonpareils. This is one of our most popular products, and at the holidays we have a hard time keeping these in stock.
Is absolutely incredible. I'm so pleased to be here. I was delighted to have been invited to Armenia, but also I just think that the chocolate bar is incredible. I think the effort and the preparation that's gone into this chocolate bar is really phenomenal.
The shell of the bean is removed, and the inner meat is broken into fragments called nibs. This has been called chocolate liquor, although it has no alcoholic content. All products made in the factory begin with this liquor. However, back before Milton Hershey went into business, it was discovered that chocolate beverages tasted better when the cocoa butter content of the liquor was reduced. And the milk has reached the consistency of taffy. Chocolate liquor and sugar are added, and the mixture looks good enough to eat right now. However, many more steps lie ahead. The mixture gets drier and drier until finally it is conveyed as a coarse powder to another series of mixing tanks. The chocolate paste entering a conch is thick and visibly coarse in texture. In a back and forth or reciprocating action, large granite rollers rub the paste over a corrugated granite base. After 72 hours of conching, this chocolate has reached a rich, mellow consistency with flavor to match. In the refining process, massive steel rollers reduce the particle size of the blended ingredients, making a fine paste even finer, really velvety smooth in texture. Of course, not all chocolate is molded. This unique shape is achieved by ejecting or dropping chocolate onto a moving belt. Chocolate is made to be eaten, and no one can enjoy its pleasures if it's kept here in the factory. So packaging of the various products is probably as important as making them.
They tuck the buttercream between ridged rollers, which shape it into creamy columns. A wire slices them into bite-sized morsels. They tamp the buttercreams to a uniform height. Chocolate oozes up through the slats of this conveyor to coat the bottoms of the creams. Then it's onto a cool surface to solidify. Next, the creams travel through 2 curtains of chocolate while being coated on the bottoms again. Fingers to make a symbol on the top. It's a clue as to what's inside. A trip through a 7.5-meter-long cooling tunnel hardens the chocolate, and it's a feast for the eyes. You can look, but don't taste. They feed the caramel squares into a device with circular knives. It's called a gang cutter, and it slices the squares into strips. They turn the sliced square sideways, and it goes through the gang cutter again to create caramel cubes. They dust the caramels with starch so they won't stick to each other as they go through the chocolate coating system. And that's how they get the caramel in the chocolate.
食べられる、食べられない。
いや、硬そうだよ。
チョコレートです。